Okay, I think we'll start. Hi everyone, I'm Deborah Lee. I'm one of the Northern Regional Directors for People Puzzles, and welcome to the third webinar in our CEO panel series, where I'll be talking to one of our Northern clients about what the last 9 months has been like in her business and what she's looking forward to. Just to introduce us, if you don't know us already, People Puzzles provide risk-free, affordable access to hard-hitting HR superstars who help your business scale rapidly, increase profits, and hit financial targets faster. We're the people who take away your people stress and allow you to focus on what you do best. So today I've got the great pleasure of having Marie Cooper with me as our guest speaker. I first met Marie at a female leaders event where she was sharing her story of the business and how all the experiences she'd gone through back in Manchester in March 2019. She was absolutely fabulous at sharing her story then, and I'm delighted that she's prepared to share her story today of her experience, both from a business and from a personal perspective. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Marie to please introduce yourself and your business.
Hi, thanks, Deborah. Yes, it's nice to be back helping and sharing my story. I've learned so much from other people sharing their stories over the years. And I think it's just nice for everybody just to realise that something will resonate with somebody, that we're not on his own and things do happen for a reason. But for where I am at the moment, I'm CEO of CBE Plus. We're a multidisciplinary subcontractor based out of Chesterfield. And I've spent the last 3 years acquiring and developing 4 businesses that we've pulled into effectively under one banner. So we had a BG engineering, CNC machining, Pentag gears, gear cutting. We have an electronickel plating plant under the brand of Nitec. We have laboratory services that serve the whole business. So it's been an interesting few years. Not necessarily the last 9 months, but it's certainly been progress.
So we're going to concentrate just on the last 9 months, but I know if anyone wants to talk to Marie, she has got a fascinating story anyway. But let's go back to the very start of the pandemic. What was happening and how did it affect you?
My lockdown starts a little bit earlier than everybody else's, I think. We were actually in the hotel Costa Decky Grand in Tenerife when it was locked down. Very much a very difficult time for me. I wanted 4 days to relax and have a little bit of sun before I actually started to deal with some of the issues we'd got in the business. It weren't the best time for the business. We were going through a few challenges and I needed to be around. I needed a few days off and certainly did not plan to be locked in a hotel with armed guards in a situation of a start of a pandemic.
Well, and talk to us about what that felt like, because we all saw it from a media perspective, but what does it feel like when you were actually stuck in the hotel?
From a control freak, from everybody telling you that you can't do things, it started off as, you know, it was just something we had to deal with. But as the week went on and people weren't telling you things, you were frustrated, you were restricted. It got quite bad. I must admit, it was quite a low point for me, you know, not being able to do things. Bear in mind, I'd already had our holiday, so we'd gone for 4 days, taking things, actually not having clean clothes, clean underwear, running out of toothpaste, not being able to go to the shop, not being able to have a coffee when you wanted one, not being able to have what you wanted to eat. You know, we're not eating for 48 hours, to be fair. At the first lockdown, we'd eaten Monday night and then we didn't actually get fed till Wednesday. We were locked in as rooms, you know, it was really difficult. And by Thursday night, I was at a really low point. You know, people were sending me text messages saying, you know, just enjoy your sun, sit out on your, you know, your sun lounger and enjoy and have a drink. And they just did not realise what it was actually like. It was effectively prison. There were police armed guards with guns, the gates were padlocked. We did witness one guy trying to escape the hotel and he was literally wrestled to the floor by police officers with a gun at his head. Wow. It was that bad, you know. And the biggest problem I had was fake news. I didn't actually realise how bad, you know, the media were until you're actually living it. And I've got people ringing me, and my mum in particular, and she's really, you know, having a go and, oh my God, I've seen this, and, you know, what are you doing? And mum, stop, it's not happening. If you want to know what's happening here, please just ring me and I'll tell you. But it was quite frightening in some respects, but frustrating and difficult.
So you came home, and it was less than 3 weeks later then when you then heard the announcement about us all going into national lockdown. So what happened at that point?
Well, I made the mistake of actually thinking, you know, yes, we can lock a hotel down in Tenerife, but you know, what else can they do, you know, and how wrong was I, you know, they actually locked the whole world down, you know, you went from one extreme to a totally one that you would never ever have anticipated. But me and Chris, my business partner, we sat on the Monday night on the phone to each other, waiting to hear what Boris had to say, with heart in his mouth, thinking, you know, we needed to continue trading. The business was not in a position where we could sustain closure. We didn't know what was going to happen. And the only words I really heard after that presentation Boris did was, if you can't work from home, you can go to work. And being a shop floor, you know, we can't, it's not a job that our guys could actually take and do from home. They needed to be in the business to be able to continue. And that was the only bit I heard. So I said, right, that's it. Business is normal for us tomorrow. But it's not that straightforward.
So coming back into the business then, so what was the reaction of everyone, and how did you approach that continuing as normal to a certain extent?
You treat everybody differently, because everybody had their own panic stations, you know, at that time. Everybody had different views, everybody had different fear factors, to be fair. Some people just wanted to just come in and continue, that they were oblivious to it almost. But then you had others that were literally, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't leave the house, you know, to that extent. And it was managing it. In general, I will say 95% of the people in this business were sensible.
Yes.
And I think that came from me and Chris. You know, we said, look, we need to be practical, we need to stay safe, we need to stay sensible, but we need to literally carry on. And it was quite nice, because by the time we come into work on the Tuesday morning, I'd had 6 phone calls from key customers that were actually saying to me, Marie, you need to stay open. We need your services. We need the business. And I think one of the nice things for us is we didn't actually realise how impactful some of the items we actually processed in our business, where they ended up. You know, some of the critical supply chains that people were now saying, you know, we need you. We're thinking, but why? You just, you know, we're just engineering. Well, actually, some of the engineering parts we do ended up in medical sectors. They ended up, you know, one of the biggest laughs we all did have is everybody went on panic buying on toilet rolls.
Yes.
Our biggest contract in the first 2 weeks of lockdown was actually toilet roll blade cutters. We were electronical plates in toilet roll blade cutters. It went from nothing to, you know, rocketed. It was quite funny. And everybody, we saw the fun side of, you know, we're actually doing something good.
Thank you. Sorry, I should have said earlier, if anyone has any burning questions whilst me and Maria are here having a conversation, please post them in the chat box. If not, we will have 10 minutes at the end for a live Q&A where you can pose any questions to Marie, and she's also happy to take one-to-one questions afterwards. So in terms of trading then, did you continue to trade as you were, or did you have to diversify?
We did a bit of both, because like I said, we've got customers that were actually saying we need to continue. We still had an order book. And pretty much most of the customers we'd got wanted the parts, so we needed to continue. So the key for us was to keep in production open, keep running. But we did have some businesses that actually just literally stopped. You know, part and parcel of our business, we've got aerospace accreditation, and because the flight stopped, you know, it literally fell out of the sky. So we had some things that just literally were put on hold from day one, but then we had other opportunities that come up. So we did a bit of both. Obviously, everybody were watching news, we were looking, and Fabio picked up on the ventilator challenge, and he put his name forward and just said, look, let's see what we can do. If there's anything we can do, we want to help. The guys were all on board for doing it. And we'd worked with a couple of people on the project before. So we took on the ventilator challenge as well, which were fantastic, morale booster. People actually thought they were making a difference by doing it, but they worked hard. They did work hard.
I was going to say, so how did that affect the workforce from a, you know, did that change shifts or the amount they were having to work? Or
we changed shifts from day one, because obviously we needed to protect people, you know, we needed them to be safe and sensible. But because they couldn't work from home, they were in. It was a difficult decision between letting the office staff work from home, because they could work from home to some extent, but they kept saying, no, we want to be in. We had a few people that literally just turned around and said, well, I've got no childcare, you know, I need to self-isolate, you know. So we were handling individual cases, quite specific. But across the board, we just literally said, right, what do we need to do to keep the business safe? We staggered people coming into the business so that they weren't all fucking in at the same time, you know, they weren't all arriving at the same time. We staggered canteen breaks, so not everybody were in the canteen, and then we staggered shifts. So it helped production, to be fair. And everybody were on board to do it. We had to be flexible. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there weren't days where I could have strangled some of them, but everybody, but it was dealing with everybody at the same time, because everybody had their own issues. You know, we've got some people that the partners were frontline workers. Then we've got other people saying, well, I don't want to come to work if they're there because they're at most risk because the partners are on the front line. So it was balancing people's fears and you know, it was a frightening time. You know, people were dying from this. And I think, you know, the whole profile of what we're trying to do just needed to be put into perspective. And we use the motto, stay safe, stay positive, but stay sensible.
Absolutely. And it sounds like because everyone was in work then, so you didn't use furlough, is that right?
No, I'm a big believer in, you know, state aid is there for people who actually need it. And as a business, we had an order book we needed to fulfill. So furlough wasn't an option for me at that time because I didn't need people sat at home. I needed people in the business.
Yes.
It was difficult, you know, telling people that they needed to come in and put themselves at risk, which is why we all were in. I didn't actually have, my lockdown was that week in Tenerife. I saw my lockdown. I was in the business, blissful, driving down the motorway every day because everybody else was sat at home. It took me 20 minutes less, but I was in supporting the business. If people were in, I needed to be here as well. So I fronted that, telling everybody, you know, talking to them about their own personal situations. But we just had to work through every single case separately. We had people that actually turned around and said, you know, why am I not furloughed? I'm like, because we need to deliver this order book and we're working in critical sectors. You know, everybody wanted to sit at home on 80% pay, you know, but yeah, it's a fantastic opportunity. Sun was shining. You know, I'm watching all my friends and family on Facebook, you know, sat in garden with gin, and I'm thinking, I've got an order book to deliver here and we're doing ventilator parts. The guys are working 24/7. You know, we're sustaining the business as well as sustaining, you know,
people's lives. I mean, you can't get a bigger purpose than that, can you? No. Amazing. What was the hardest decisions that you and the leadership team had to make during this period?
It was being reactive. It was very difficult. You know, actually asking people to come into work, you know, was difficult. We'd amalgamated 4 businesses to one, changing culture. We were going through shareholder disputes at the time, so managing shareholders that were still in, you know, owners of the business, but actually we didn't want them to be involved, you know, taking on their views at the same time. But the biggest for me was not being able to plan. Every single day was a new day. You could say we're going to do this, and then you come into work and something had happened or something had changed, or, you know, somebody had been quarantined that you needed their skill set. The whole thing was just reactive all the time. And trust me, that's not something I do really well.
What would you say had the biggest, most significant impact on you personally through this period?
Getting locked down in Costa Rica was my fear. Actually, having all that control took out of me at the point that the business needed me, I thought, was the biggest impact. I actually felt like that was my lockdown. I don't feel like I've been personally in lockdown because we have worked through this and, you know, having something to do. And I do understand and appreciate the people that have not had things to do. And I think that's accepted some of the guys in the office, because when we have said, you're working from home, and they've said, no, I want to come in, the psychological effect on people, you know, for this situation, being at home, being isolated, you know, the fear factor, I think, you know, not being able to see family and friends, you know, not being able to do all the things from a personal support point of view. My family, my friends are my support network, you know, they're my out, you know, going for spa days, you know, girly lunches out, you know, being able to go and see my mum and dad. That all puts my life in perspective, so I can handle this. And not having that and not being able to do that, very, very difficult. You're almost struggling on your own, if you like.
And as a leader, that's quite lonely, isn't it? Because obviously you have a message and you have to keep up the front. So how did you cope with that without that support group around you?
We use social media, use Zoom, Zoom family meetings. I've sat, luckily in the summer, at the end of my mum and dad's drive, you know, with fish and chips, we've dropped them off. But my husband's been my biggest rock. He always has been. You know, I did actually think if we'd have had to spend 9 months together, we probably wouldn't still be together. So actually working has been our saviour. But it does bring you closer together in some respects, even though you're further apart. I think people appreciate you know, everybody's situation is difficult. And, you know, you don't talk about everything in business with your family and friends, because sometimes not everybody wants your problems, do they? You use them as your out to escape from everything else that you're dealing with. And, you know, we've missed so many family events that I would have been able to have that, you know, outlet vent, that you just have to find alternatives. And it's been nice in some respects, not having to think about what you're going to do on a weekend, you know, not feeling guilty for not going and seeing people, you know, when you've had a rough day at work, but at the same time you still miss it.
And then recently, I know you've had another event that affected you quite significantly all in the office. So talk us through when a number of you actually caught COVID.
Yeah, we've all had COVID, so we can actually say we've lived through this actually officially. It's been my dreaded fear all the way through this. If we had an outbreak and we literally had to shut the business, you know, we're back in the same position where I were in February as to what do we do. And I think we've lived through that. That has been one of the things, you know, every day, oh my God, what's going to happen? You know, is anybody going to get it? What impact's that going to have? And then on the 23rd of October, that's just what happened. We had our business development director in the office Monday morning, said, I don't feel very well, I'm going home. Got a test, texted us Tuesday and said, I've got COVID. And within 3 days, 9 of us had been tested positive. Interesting thing is, nobody had really had significant symptoms other than Fabio. Everybody had took the test because they'd been in the vicinity. We'd got all the measures in place in the office. We've got a big open space office. We've got perspex screens. So it just shows how things can spread. Touch wood, at the moment, it has not impacted the shop floor, but it did close the office. The guys were really, they were good, they were sensible. We put working from home procedures in place. Some of them managed that really well, some of them didn't. But what it's done, it's highlighted the areas we need to focus on, the risks to the business. What if this happens? What did happen? What do we need to do? So it certainly gave us some focus on how to put things in place that help. But it was difficult, really difficult.
And how poorly were you personally?
I had a really sore throat. To be honest, I only went for the test because I have a general cough anyway. And I actually thought I'd had COVID last October, you know, when everything came out, because we'd been to Hong Kong on holiday, and I came back and I was quite ill. I ended up with pneumonia. I had a temperature of 39, not very well. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, I actually got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
Right.
And one of the side effects of COVID at the time came out as, you know, result was type 2 diabetes. And we had a few other people up to Christmas in the office that were having almost serious flu symptoms, you know, knocking them off the feet for 3 and 4 days. So there was an element of actually, well, we could have had it last year, you know, was it really a year? We'd gone through all that. But I actually just had sore throat and cough, a bit tired, a bit lethargic. But other than that, work from home, you know.
So you still didn't stop working?
But I don't know, I've not stopped working. I never will. Seeing your blood into, unfortunately.
And the good news is everyone's recovered, haven't they?
Everybody is luckily okay, and I think that is, you know, something that we all need to be grateful for. A few of the lads are still struggling with their energy levels. Difficult, but everybody's back now working. We're still flexing the office. We've not got everybody back in work. And that's at the request of the shop floor. They're like, no, stay away. We don't want you in.
And how's that working with the office all being at home when they've you know, obviously you've been on site for most of that time?
It's difficult because there is a definite connection between the shop floor and the officers working together.
Yeah.
The shop floor are not always technically able to use Zoom, and the communication's been very difficult. Everything's trying to be done by phone. The reliance on some of the things the guys in office would have just done has been reliant on the people on the shop floor. So despite the fact it's been difficult, and you know, I'm not saying it's been easy, we've had some issues, we've had some things we've had to address, but it's actually highlighted people who have stepped up, and you know, people who have actually said, actually this needs to change, we need to be better at doing this, or this is something that we can take forward. So it's a balance, isn't it? You get opportunities, but you also get issues you need to sort through.
So as we saunter towards the end of 2020, what do you see as being critical for next year? And what plans are you starting to make now about how you're going to trade next year?
We need to put all the plans that we had for growth was surrounding new markets, new opportunities, and it's been difficult because they've literally not been there, the aerospace market. So we need to start looking at the opportunities to bring them back, but we're reliant on some of the vaccines, you know, how the country will perform. What are the government going to force us to do coming out of this lockdown period? You know, the impact of what they're going to do over Christmas. We still face all the same fears we did back in March, in my opinion. You know, we still have quarantine periods, we still have people at risk from COVID. We still have business projects that are open coming, but we still have projects that are delayed. It's all still the same. I think we have to carry on. We need to be here. We have to, you know, we have to keep taking every day as it comes, and keep moving forward. We have got plans. We have got things that we need to deliver, because if you haven't, what's the point? But it's just at what point they can be delivered. We just need to still be sensible as to when they can be actioned. But it is step by step, day by day, keep moving.
And how are you communicating with the teams around the fact that everything's changing and actually a lot of your plans have gone out the window, and your normal way of working in terms of quite a planned approach that hasn't been able to work in that way? How are you talking to the teams?
We talk to individuals personally by, you know, phone. We do have one-to-one meetings, socially distanced. I talk to quite a lot of the guys because I'm on site. Our board members, team leaders, they're communicated to. We have regular conversations with them, so they're aware. We update them on the order book. It is just literally about keeping them informed. If they've got questions, we're open to talk to us. Tell us what you want to know, what will make you feel better, what do you not understand. We are quite open business. I'm not saying you go and tell them everything because you don't want them to panic too much.
No.
Some problems are yours to handle, not theirs. But if they know a little bit of information, it can sometimes put their mind at rest and they can actually get on, because you don't want everybody worrying about everything. But the fact that they can see the order book, they can see where we're moving forward, they can see the things we're doing, it helps them actually come to some sort of feeling good about themselves and what they're doing, and actually supporting the business and us through what we need to do.
Good. So very current today, because today we're going to hear what area is going to go into what tier as we come out. Obviously, South Yorkshire had only just gone into tier 3. I think it was a week or so ahead of the national 4-week lockdown. Did anything change for you when South Yorkshire went into tier 3 and then into lockdown? And then what are you thinking as we hear today, what tier South Yorkshire may be as we come out, and what effect will it have?
From a business perspective, no, because what it does affect is more the entertainment, the social side of it, and it's the social impact on our employees that we need to be conscious of.
Yeah.
You know, it is how that impacts on their mindset and their ability to be able to come into work and do the job. But from a business perspective, it's not changed anything. We need to continue doing what we're doing the best we can. We need to make sure everything's in place. But it is really the mental and social side of the lockdown and how it's affecting people and individuals. It's not a nice situation to be in, is it? Nobody likes to be in it. But
No.
The one thing that I do tell everybody is we're not on our own. This is not something that individuals are facing. This is not something that's just happening to me or to you. It is happening to all of us. We're all in the same boat. It's just how rocky it is for each of us and where we are. It's very difficult. I do feel for the industries. And my husband said to me this morning, what do you think is going to happen? And I said, I don't know. I said, you know, people still need to be sensible. I said, but I would just personally just like to be able to go for a meal and a drink with a couple of my friends and family, you know, just to celebrate Christmas and just actually just sit around a table and just talk about crap.
Yeah,
which is normal. Just be normal. We all hope for that, but the safety of my family and friends comes first, and you know the employees need to be the same. We need to protect each other.
Right. I've had a question come through. What things have changed for the better that you're going to carry on with and you're going to keep doing?
Communication, flexibility. But I think people have been flexible because we've staggered shifts. You know, there's none of this, you know, culture of 7 to 3 and that's it, clock on, clock off. It's what do we need to do to deliver. Ventilator projects show what we can actually achieve if we all put our minds to it. So it's actually using the cases that we've actually seen to say, look what we can do. You know, we don't have to work in this rigid way anymore. It's not, you know, straightforward. We can be flexible. We can be agile. You know, we're not restricted to one marketplace or, you know, one customer. We can share what we do, and we can do something different.
It's quite exciting, isn't it?
It is. I think you need to take the positives from that, don't you? Yeah, it's all doom and gloom.
And what differences have as a people director made to your business whilst you've been going through this really challenging time?
Oh, we recruited a really great HR advisor. Not only were we going through COVID, but my HR manager was on maternity leave. We had a part-time person covering it who didn't want to work full-time, and they actually left in June.
Oh, right.
Which was bang in the middle of it. So not only did we not have HR, I'm handling every issue from a management perspective. Excuse me, residues.
You didn't need.
But part of the Vistage group, and being connected with People Puzzles, we had their HR director recruit me a HR advisor, set up the role. What do we need? And we brought in Andrea in beginning of August, who's really supported us through this situation. It's helped massively, to be fair, getting the right people in the right roles.
And how's the role different now that you changed what you wanted from HR, didn't you, and sort of thought about what that job spec was and how that role was going to play out? So can you describe what that looks and feels like?
Yeah, we had a HR manager, and I think the conversation I had with Lynn at People Puzzles the first time we had this, and I said, I need an HR manager. She went, do you really? Do you want somebody to do everything? And she says, we've got 75 people across the group, bringing 4 businesses into one, changing culture, settling everything down, bringing the businesses all onto one site. So we are going through a lot of changes over the planned 12 months. You never know what's going to happen. We have got a plan for 12 months. But what she said is, what you want is an advisor to your management team that can actually help them manage their people and support. So just literally changing the job title from manager to advisor says straight away to the managers in our business, they're here to support you, but not do it for you. And I think that is another one of the big changes, because Andrea's not coming to tell everybody what to do. She's coming to say, right, what do you want to do and how are we going to do it together? So it's a mindset thing, and it is just literally changing one word has made a big impact. And the managers have took it on board, because, Emma did do everything for them before. They did rely on a hell of a lot. And I think, that impacted not having the ability for her to come back part-time. It was a full-time role. But what Andrea's doing now is we're developing the people so that they can manage the people, and the pressure's not all on. It's a learning curve.
Right. So the line manager accountability stepped up in terms of delivering that through the line. Brilliant.
It's not easy. They don't want to do it. Oh, this person's coming to me with this. Yeah, what are you going to do about it? It's, you have to bat it back, but it's not without support. And, Andrea's very good at, coaching and mentoring and supporting them through it. So it's working really quite well at the minute.
Right. So it's made quite a significant difference.
Yeah.
So before we close off and hand over for any questions, is there any final key learning or anything else you'd want to share with the audience?
I think it's very difficult, isn't it? We stay focused. But I think the big thing that came out of this, and it came out of a Vistage group, my chair, she said, the Chinese symbol, which is quite interesting because COVID stemmed from China, for crisis is two-pronged approach. It's danger and opportunity. And when you look at it, we were facing so many dangers. We were facing life-threatening issues. We were facing the business potentially not actually being here in 6 months' time, the impact of people. But then when you actually look what we've actually worked through and the opportunities we've seen to develop, to do the ventilator challenge, to prove what our skill set is in the business and develop, there is always something out there. If you get focused on all the negatives, that's where your energies are going to be focused on all the negatives. You need to literally, if you can't do it yourself, find somebody who can do it, to pull your head out of the sand and say, right, okay, that's that situation, but what can we focus on and what can we keep people's, motivation through, and you have to stay positive. You have to, whether you feel it, because there is some days, trust me, that I've gone up and had a drink and thought, oh my God, what are we doing? What's going to happen? I'm sat with my head in my hands, but other people can't see you do that. That's not their problem. There is a positive. And if you come into work, you get to the door and you say, right, today's today. What are we going to face today? You do it together. Our motto at CBE is together we do more. And that's connecting the capabilities of the business, but it is also working with individuals throughout the world, through the business. What do we do? Let's just pull together. We work together, and we can achieve everything if we do that.
Thanks so much. That's been brilliant, Marie. I've had one question come in, but for those of you that want to now post any questions for Marie, please put them on the chat, and we'll hopefully get through as many as we can in the next 10 minutes or so. So the question that's come through is, how are you tackling mental issues in the workplace as a result of the pandemic?
On a case-by-case basis, it's difficult. Everybody's facing their own problems. Working from home is difficult for some of our team, you know, and actually saying to them, how can we support you by, you know, particularly when the office was closed and we did all, you know, need to be at home. We regularly use Teams, Zoom, phone calls. We kept in touch with people. And then as things started to develop, bringing people back in, where it is all about talking to people, getting them to talk to you, what's worrying you, what do you need to solve, what are your issues, why are you feeling like this? And just literally talking to them about how they can feel better, what they need to do, helping them solve some of the problems sometimes, because again, it's about being focused on all the negatives. A lot of them have come in, the mental health issues are because, oh, I can't do this, or oh, I can't do that. Or think about what you can do, what have you done? You know, just pointing out some of the things, well, actually, you did a great job last week, or, you know, look what you've achieved this morning. And they'll go, oh, yeah. And I'm like, right, you know, I feel better for that now. And then they're off. And, you know, it is just giving them the motivation. You know, sometimes you think, really? But everybody needs that. You know, you don't realize you do it yourself. My husband said to me one day, he says, you having this conversation with yourself? Or, you know, sometimes you have to bring yourself out of it. And not everybody can do that. But sometimes you know who your staff are, you know which ones need the care and attention. Most of them have just got on with it. Most of them you've not known there's a problem, they've just carried on coming to work. You know, they're happy to do it, they want to do it. Some of them have thanked us and said, you know, I don't think I could have sat at home. You know, it is difficult not knowing you'd got a job to come back to. That is difficult. The guys knew they'd got a job, they knew they were working through it, and they knew they could see an out. Just having something to get out of bed for in the morning was,
yeah, the fact you've had the routine. Great. There was an earlier question, sorry, Marie, that I've missed, which was, how did the pandemic impact your planning process? And I know you have said it has impacted you, but both from a short term and a long term, can you just describe a bit more fully how that's impacted your processes?
Yeah, short term, it literally managing the supply chain. You know, could we plan? We take an order on because we know we've got a supply chain, and then actually ring the supplier, and you know they're actually all furloughed. Everybody, they've closed. They didn't listen to Boris and said, if you can't work from home, you can go in. I've had a couple of them where I said, right, I really need you to supply me this. We've got to deliver. It's going into this critical sector, please. And he's just gone, oh, I better take somebody off furlough then, Anton. I'm like, yes, please get in. You know, you're part of this supply chain that we need to manage. So short term, we've had some of them things to deal with, but long term, the world has to get back. You know, I do think people will get back on planes. I do think people will start planning. And I think the change at the moment is the potential vaccine, because I actually think that is light at the end of tunnel for people, because until that was actually announced, we've seen a change in people's attitudes to actually think we can see the light. It might be, you know, 6 months down the line, but people are actually starting to move forward again. Whereas maybe in August, that was difficult. People couldn't see the end. Yeah. So it was difficult for people to plan. And that affects the whole network of our customers and suppliers.
The next question is about, how have you recognised good performance or shown appreciation throughout this period?
Just thanking people. It's difficult, isn't it? Because, you know, how do you show, you know, the business can't afford bonuses or cash at the moment. We're in a difficult position. We're managing. But I think people just want a job. You know, people just want to be able to see that they've got some security going forward. And I think if we can do that and say, look, guys, we are going to be here in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, 18 months' time. These are his plans. These are what we're doing. You're part of it. You know, you're getting paid. You know, there's a lot of people in a lot worse position than they are. And we really appreciate it. Let's just continue doing our bit and we'll get there.
Thank you. Something that's come up with a number of clients and on a number of our webinars is where the workforce has worked all the way through and obviously not taken any holiday and have now got a boatload of holiday to take. How have you managed holidays through and into this period now?
Yeah, we've had the same, because obviously we've got an order book to fulfill, and we found people cancelling holidays because they weren't going anywhere. They were having their holidays cancelled, so that I'd rather be at work, come in. We've balanced that. We've allowed them to carry some forward into next year. Yeah. We need to manage that into next year, but we have allowed them to carry forward. We've said to some, you can take it. we have utilised the furlough scheme for a part of the business in November, and that is really to support the cash flow of the business with the order book transitioning over Christmas into January. But it's also allowed some of the guys to actually take the holidays, so 20% by paying the holiday pay, and being able to do that as well. So it's a balance. You know, some of the guys have took the holidays, some haven't, some want to take it forward into next year, but it's talk to them, see what they want to do. You know, it's all about individual preference and what you can actually do as a business to
making it work for the business too.
Making it work for both, isn't it? It's a two-way thing. You know, if they can't just expect to be paid for them, they can't expect just to take them, but you know, we can't let them leave them either. You know, that there is a element of that, and we're having a forced 2-week shutdown at Christmas. We're clearing the order book. You know, we can do it, and we're saying to the guys, we want you to have some time with family and have the time.
And how long would you normally shut for? Is that longer than you would normally shut?
It's only for part of the business as well, because one of them's going on order book that we could actually be doing with running through Christmas. So it's quite difficult managing the 4 sectors. Is balancing that, but we would have shut down on the 23rd until January, whereas for one of the businesses we're looking to close on the 17th.
Right.
Just have that extra period.
I think we'll probably see that more and more, won't we, across the UK. So that's the end of the questions that I've seen. Are there any further questions to come through? Sorry, I've got one more. How have you made the informal things you've learned part of your formal way of working moving forward?
I've created a 135 strategy plan, which is quite interesting. I'm a planner. I need, you know, my team are reactive, you know, they're all down there on the shop floor, and you know, they're in the doing, and I'm sat up here thinking, right, okay, we need to plan, and we need to look at what we're doing, and we need some structure. So what I've done is I've put together a vision, a mission, and some objectives, and I've built in some of the things that we've learned into how we need. So for example, the culture of the team, you know, how we work together, the flexibility we need, what do we need to adapt from a process point of view, lean and efficiencies, you know, how can we do all that? So we've put together what we call a 135 strategy plan. It's part of the Vistage networks, if anybody's part of it, but it actually works, and it puts some structure together, and we've actually shared that with everybody in October. So we've actually said, this is what the business is now doing. We still have a plan. You know, it's all part and parcel of what we've been doing, the transitioning of bringing the businesses together, because, you know, we are in a transition. We're doing that as well as COVID. So everything sort of impacts at the same time. But for people to sit down and read it and actually see, you know, the areas of what we're working on, how, you know, the last 9 months have affected and things that we've learned from it, they can actually see that in the plans going forward. So we've shared it. Not saying it's not going to change, because, you know, I never say never anymore.
And how did the workforce react when you shared that, you know, what you've learned, what the plans are for the future, how you're incorporating that all into your future way of working?
They all take it very different. Some just want to know that there's a plan. They don't want to know what it is. They just want to know that there is one. Yeah. And some will just go, we trust you, Marie. You know, you get on me, just tell me what you want me to do. And then we get others that actually want to say, well, what's my part in it? What can I do? You know, what bits do you want me to do? And then you've got everybody that comes in and says, actually, we can do this, and this is great, and it's exciting, and it's new. And, you know, it's finding that balance of everybody into it. 75 staff, everybody is different. But it's like I said, you know, we need everybody to be different, because that's what makes it work. You know, we can't all be the same. We need to complement each other in what we do. Okay,
that's been brilliant. I think I've asked all the questions that have come through, so thanks for being so responsive, and I know some of those questions just, you know, land on you, so thanks very much for your time. Thanks for sharing your story, it's been amazing. As always, if your question hasn't been answered, then and you want a one-to-one chat or a follow-up with People Puzzles or with Marie, we're all happy to do that. We offer a complimentary 30-minute one-to-one with one of our team if you've got any specific issues that you'd like to discuss further. And if you want to call the number on the screen, or you can email us on hello@peoplepuzzles.co.uk. And we're also pushing out a number of blogs and articles that are all current and relevant in terms of the coronavirus impact on businesses, SMEs in the UK. But to close now, I'd just like to once again thank Marie. It's been fantastic. Thank you to our audience. Thanks for your participation. I hope you're all going to get 3 or 4 minutes back before you go onto your next virtual meeting. But thanks for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it, and hope you have a very productive week.
Thank you.